Number 10. The blue-eyed forest dragon. There is no animal quite as unique as the forest dragon with bright blue eyes. It looks like something out of Japanese anime. It has the most striking shade of blue that you have ever seen in any animal's eyes, never mind a lizard. Even though I called it a dragon, it's actually an anglehead lizard, but the name dragon does seem appropriate. This animal lives on the tropical islands of Indonesia and Malaysia, in ancient rainforests believed to be around 130 million years old. These are some of the oldest forests in the world, so it's no surprise that so many unique specimens live here. The blue-eyed anglehead lizard is one of 16 types of lizards scattered throughout Southeast Asia. They are recognizable because of their big heads, their extremely colorful scales, and their extravagant spines. But not all of them have the beautiful blue eyes that this one does. It really is quite unique. What would you do if you saw an animal with these types of eyes? Would you try to capture it to be a pet, or would you run away as fast as possible? It really looks like something out of a horror movie, but it would be the coolest animal to keep in a terrarium in your house. Let me know what you'd do by writing a comment down below. After that, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. There are loads of amazing videos coming out all of the time, and you won't want to miss even a single one. Number 9. Glass frog. There is a frog right now somewhere in the rainforests of Central America and South America that has a very unique superpower. It's known as the reticulated glass frog, but it should really be called the slimy translucent frog. It's only about the size of a quarter and it's almost invisible. You can actually see the bones and veins inside the frog through its skin. And if you look from the underside, you can see all of its internal organs through its belly. You can even watch its little heart beating as it sits on a leaf. According to National Geographic, scientists still aren't 100% sure why the frogs have translucent skin. They think it could have something to do with the pattern on their backs. It could be meant to resemble a big clutch of eggs and might help males to protect their offspring by confusing potential predators who are trying to steal their eggs. But they just don't know. What they do know is that the males are super protective over the eggs after the female lays them. The female lays the eggs underneath some leaves using a weird jelly-like substance, and afterwards the male will stand on guard duty 24 hours a day until the eggs hatch. That's some serious devotion for any animal in the wild. This frog would win Father of the Year for sure. Number 8. Sun bear. Everyone who lives in North America is familiar with the black bear, the grizzly bear, the polar bear, and of course the brown bear. But wandering through the forests of southern China is one of the most unique animals in the world, and definitely the most unique bear. It's known as the sun bear, and it's extraordinary in its behavior, its appearance, and the fact that it exists at all. For such a big beast, this bear spends most of its time sticking its giant tongue underneath logs and slurping up insects. They're pretty incredible in that they live to be about 25 years old, and they can go their whole lives eating not much except for bugs and berries and honey. They also spend a huge amount of time sleeping inside tree canopies and on branches. Sun bears get their name from the giant patch of golden fur on their chest, which kind of looks like a sunburst. Some say it looks like a rising sun. And while they might look pretty big in pictures, sun bears are actually very small. According to National Geographic, the male sun bear can only grow to be about 5 feet and around 150 pounds, making them the smallest bear species in the world. They're only about half the size of an American black bear, and black bears aren't even that big. Number 7. Markhor. Goats are all unique. Anywhere you go in the world you see goats, and they are always a little weird and a little suspicious. I never quite trust a goat standing sideways on a vertical mountainside with its shifty goat eyes. But the most unique out of all the goats in the world is the Markhor. The Markhor is the biggest out of any wild species of goat, and they also look the strangest. They have broad hooves and enormous spiraling horns that can grow to be about 5 feet long. That means they have horns that are bigger than some grown humans. The goats live in herds of anywhere between 30 and 100 females and are only joined by males during the mating season, of course. Their name, Markhor, actually means snake eater in Persian, likely because of how they easily kill snakes by squashing them with their oversized hooves. You used to be able to find these unique goats living throughout Kashmir, but now they are only in some parts of Central Asia, primarily in Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. Unfortunately, they are currently considered an endangered species. Number 6. Red-lipped batfish. I'm not sure if there is anything on Earth more unique than the red-lipped batfish. Not only does it look like it's always judging you, but where did it get all that lipstick? It's arguably the most unnerving aquatic animal to look at. It's not ugly necessarily, but there's just something about it that really doesn't sit right with me. The red-lipped batfish is typically found near the Galapagos Islands. They only grow to be around 10 inches long, they have a shape like a squished burrito, and they have the most vibrant red lips you have ever seen on anyone other than your grandmother. According to The Verge, the reason this fish has such luscious lips is currently unknown, but scientists do believe it's probably to attract a mate. And I suppose in that way, the red-lipped batfish isn't so far from humans. Just imagine if you were a red-lipped batfish and you stumbled upon another one of your kind with the reddest and brightest lips ever. Of course you would want them as your mate. If you're not creeped out enough already, that pointy thing sticking out of the middle of the fish's forehead, right between its eyes, what you probably thought was its nose, is actually a horn covered in little hairs. It uses its horn kind of like an anglerfish to attract prey so it can gobble them up with its bright red lips. Number 5. Japanese spider crab. The Japanese spider crab is not as frightening or as creepy as the red-lipped batfish, but it's probably the most unique crab in the world. It obviously gets its name because it kind of looks like a spider. It's also the biggest crab on Earth. It has a maximum size of 12 feet across, and it weighs an astonishing 44 pounds. I shouldn't have to tell you how ridiculous that is. Imagine the tallest person you know and then stack 2 of them together. That's how big the Japanese spider crab is. But it's super light because it has long and spindly legs just like a spider. The good news is that they live at the bottom of the ocean, inside vents and holes at a depth of around 2,000 feet. You're unlikely to encounter a massive Japanese spider crab on your next diving adventure, so don't worry. Have people ever hunted and eaten these massive creatures? You bet! They are actually considered a delicacy, which makes sense, considering one of their supremely long crab legs would be enough to feed even the hungriest seafood buffet enthusiast. They are being protected nowadays because overfishing is a concern when it comes to maintaining the species and reducing the risk of extinction. Number 4. Sunda flying lemur. The Sunda flying lemur, despite its name, is not actually a lemur. It can't even fly, but it can glide like you wouldn't believe. This creature is native to the forests of Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia. It has an outstanding gliding capability of up to around 300 feet with only losing about 30 feet in elevation. You might argue that's even better than flying. Who needs wings anyway? It has been reported by Australian Geographic that one particularly talented critter managed to glide for a distance of about 446 feet. If you need some help, that's about the length of 9 buses. So, if the Sunda flying lemur isn't a lemur, what is it? Well, it's a species classified as a coluga, which is probably something not many people have heard of before. There are only 2 known species in the world, making them both extremely unique. There is the Sunda flying lemur and a slightly larger one found only in the Philippines. The closest thing to compare them to would probably be sugar gliders, though the flying lemurs look stranger. They have giant eyes that look like they were glued on. Number 3. Pink fairy armadillo. The pink fairy armadillo is not only an extremely unique animal, but it's also one of the cutest animals ever. It's almost like a tiny dog that fits in your hand and has a pink shell. I mean, this thing is pink. But it's not actually a fairy. It can't fly and it can't cast spells. What it can do though is burrow underground and hide there basically forever. The pink fairy armadillo is one of the most elusive animals on the planet. It's the smallest out of all the armadillo species, and it spends its whole life inside the earth burrowing this way and that, hunting tiny invertebrates and chewing up plant roots. Because of its elusiveness, the pink fairy armadillo has barely been studied, and there is very little known about it. This armadillo is believed to live mostly in the deserts of Argentina. And unlike its armadillo cousins, the pink fairy's shell is not fully connected to its body. It's not the armoured powerhouse that other armadillos are. Instead, it has a very thin shell attached by a thin membrane that connects it to the spinal column. The reason it's pink is partly because its shell is so thin that you can see the blood vessels underneath. This basically means the pink fairy doesn't rely on its armour like other armadillos do. It's going in a whole different evolutionary direction, making it super unique. Number 2. Brazza's monkey. The Brazza's monkey lives in the forests of Central America, from Cameroon to Ethiopia and Angola to Kenya. I understand that all monkeys are a little weird, and each is unique in their own way, but this one is a special kind of strange. First of all, the monkey was named after the Italian explorer Pier Savonan de Brazza, who lived between 1852 and 1905. Not only is the monkey named after him, but so is the capital of the Republic of Congo, the city of Brazzaville. That must have been one impressive explorer, but his namesake primate is particularly memorable. As for these monkeys, what makes them unique is that they kind of look like surprised old men all of the time. They're pretty husky, weighing up to about 12 pounds. And like most monkeys, the females only give birth to a single young. As a defense mechanism, the Brazza monkey will completely freeze, which is maybe why they have that shocked look on their face all of the time. The Brazza monkey always looks like an old person who got away from the seniors' home and doesn't quite know where to go next. Number 1. Sea pen. Not all creatures are as exciting as monkeys, armadillos, and bears. For example, just take a look at the sea pen. A person might argue that every living thing in the ocean is unique, and that's true, but the sea pen is an exceptional creation. It doesn't even look like it belongs in the ocean. It looks like a giant quill pen ready to be dipped in ink so that you can write someone a letter during medieval times. This graceful creature lives on the sea floor, it boasts a wide variety of colours, and it grows to be around 1.5 feet long. Sea pens live at shallow depths of around 225 feet, and you can find them off the coast of California and north to Alaska. But you probably want to know what a sea pen really is. Each sea pen is actually made up of a colony of polyps, which are small things, sort of like anemones. First, what happens is the primary polyp will lose its tentacle, and it becomes the stock of the sea pen, which anchors it to the sandy ocean floor. Then, other polyps come along and form their branches off the sea pen to help it to grow. Each branch has a specialized function, with some polyps helping the collective to feed by catching plankton, while other polyps reproduce, and others ventilate the growing colony by moving water in and out of special organic canals. Basically, the sea pen is a miniature city occupied by tiny polyps. You could even think of it as a single creature built from the remains of other creatures, like a weird underwater flower Frankenstein monster. Number 10. Vomiting water. Pufferfish are famous for their ability to inflate and their somewhat slow and clumsy swimming style. There are about 120 different species of pufferfish, and since they're kind of slow, their only means to deter predators is to make themselves as big as possible. They don't do this by sucking in air, but by quickly ingesting huge amounts of water and turning themselves into a big ball that nobody is able to swallow. People familiar with pufferfish or that have seen them in an aquarium will start to notice that sometimes their pufferfish will squirt water at them. But why? Are they playing? Are they scared? Some people think it's a feeding response. They might squirt water in exchange for food. Both puffers and triggerfish will also blow water on their food with powerful jets that turn the food over. A famous meme came out with a pufferfish seeming to vomit water. On March the 6th, 2019, the website Tokyo Web published an article entitled "Non-Toxic Pufferfish in Hot Spring Water." The article included a photograph of the fish spitting up spring water. It's hard to know what exactly was going on, but it's probably not good since the pufferfish has blown itself up and is now releasing water. Hopefully it's not going to get eaten. Pufferfish will also, of course, have to release the water at some point when they get caught, so fishermen will hold them in their hands until they release the water, making a sort of vomiting sound. Number 9. Lazy parent cuckoo birds. It's time to meet the planet's laziest and perhaps most clever mother. She is, of course, the cuckoo bird, and she is probably one of the most creative parents alive. The phenomenon is known as brood parasitism, and basically it means the cuckoo bird is a parasite. You see, when the cuckoo bird is about to lay eggs, she goes in search of another nest to leave her eggs in. She has to go on scouting trips to find a nest of another species she knows will be a good parent for her baby birds. Once she targets a nest, there is basically nothing the surrogate parent can do to stop her. Cuckoo birds are incredibly well adapted to being brood parasites, and it works in this disturbing and creative way. When the cuckoo birds hatch in their step-parent's nest, they do it a little bit earlier than the other eggs. This will make them stronger, louder, and bigger than their would-be siblings. Because the most demanding baby birds get fed more, they have a stronger chance of surviving. It can be hard for the mother bird to tell which of the tiny birds is hers, and so the cuckoo chicks will get treated the same as the other babies. In effect, the cuckoo bird's babies will be stronger than the other babies in the nest, so they will get fed more and the other babies will perish. It's a bird world out there, and the cuckoo mother is not going to put another species' babies ahead of her own. Sometimes, the mother cuckoo bird will even poke holes in the eggs of the host's nest when she leaves her own, ensuring only her babies are the ones to be fed. Now that's a really sly and underhanded strategy, but the animal kingdom is a rough and wild place. Number 8. Backward-running mole rats. Yes, mole rats are some of the most disgusting creatures on the planet. The naked mole rat looks like a failed lab experiment that lost all its hair. They have unsightly, wrinkly skin, yellow fangs, and beady eyes that almost look villainous. However, these animals do some incredible and very strange things. Their evolutionary traits are absolutely amazing. Not only do they live their entire life underground without the need for much oxygen, but they even have excellent hygiene. Inside a mole rat's burrow, you will find an actual bathroom, which is something that you can't say for most animals. They dig a specific tunnel strictly for use as a toilet. If that's not hygienic for an animal, I don't know what is. Compare that to most other wild animals, who just go whenever and wherever nature calls. Additionally, naked mole rats can run backwards just as fast as they can run forwards. Imagine breaking into a full sprint completely backwards with the same raw speed you get when running forwards. It's simply unbelievable. For just one more strange habit of the naked mole rat, they can move their incisors independently of each other, just like a pair of chopsticks. Again, imagine being able to move your two front teeth individually and separately. And if those weird facts weren't enough, there's still one more. You might not believe it, but apparently they can barely feel pain. These critters are some of the toughest around, and they don't even react to being burned with acid. Could you imagine that kind of set of abilities? It seems almost superhuman. Which of the naked mole rat's talents would you most like to have? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. Number 7. Vengeful Crows. Crows have been harbingers of darkness for a very long time. There is nothing spookier than hearing a crow call in the dark of night while you're walking alone. And while ravens may be larger and more ominous than crows, crows have a very strange habit of seeking revenge on those who have done them wrong, making them far more terrifying than any other bird. This all has to do with the crow's exceptional memory. Crows can recognize a human face. That's right, it doesn't just know that you're a person, but it knows your face and who you are, and it probably even knows where you live. That's more than any government intelligence agency can say, and crows are significantly more likely to hold a grudge. They don't forgive or forget. If you have ever been rude to a crow perhaps, by throwing a rock at it or trying to kick it, the crow is going to remember you. The downside for you is that crows can communicate with other crows, and if the crow recognizes your face and perceives you as a threat, it will let the other crows know. It might even get other crows involved to heckle you in an attempt to make you leave the area. This could result in you basically being harassed by a murder of crows. Why do you think a group of crows is called a murder? Well, it's not for being nice and friendly, that's for sure. Number 6. Rock-eating crocs. Crocodiles like to eat rocks. Yes, it's a pretty strange habit. Rocks don't have any nutritional value, and they certainly don't get digested very easily. I certainly wouldn't eat any, and I hope you wouldn't either. There are not too many animals that would go out of their way to actually eat rocks, but while this is a strange behaviour for this prehistoric lizard, crocodiles don't eat rocks for the taste. They eat rocks because the stones help them with their basic digestion, according to research. By eating rocks, the crocodile will help crush and grate its food already in its stomach. Human stomachs don't work the same way, so don't try this at home. However, this strategy is especially good for crocodiles who eat very large meals, or animals with tough bones and shells, like turtles. The rocks help break everything down within the croc's stomach, so it can be easily digested. Plus, having rocks in the crocodile's stomach will make it feel full. At least that part makes sense. With a bunch of rocks clunking around in there, it's going to be a full belly no matter how much actual food makes it through. Though I would be worried about not getting enough nutrients if I were the crocodile. Number 5. Chickens and the T-Rex. There are some unlikely cousins, but family is family. This one is a little less of a strange habit and more of a strange relationship. When you think about the infamous Tyrannosaurus Rex, who do you think its closest relative is? Is it the elephant? Is it the crocodile or the Komodo dragon? Perhaps a shark or an iguana? According to researchers who study genetics and evolution, the chemical structure found in proteins preserved inside the Tyrannosaurus Rex bone most closely resembles the chemical structure of a chicken. Basically, dinosaur DNA equals chicken DNA. The closest relative to a T-Rex is a modern-day chicken. When you eat scrambled eggs for breakfast in the morning, you are eating the closest living thing we currently have to real-life dinosaur eggs. This strengthens the long-held theory the dinosaurs are the ancestors of birds, and that through the past 70 million years, the ferocious Tyrannosaurus Rex has slowly evolved, and some of its descendants eventually did turn into the clueless clucker, the hungry and slightly obnoxious modern-day chicken. And yes, this is based on real scientific studies published in real scientific journals. And yes, the actual science is a bit more complicated than a slow evolution. As different environmental conditions changed the world around the dinosaurs, some of their descendants gradually got smaller and smaller, gained feathers over scales, and started clucking instead of roaring. Now that's a family reunion I couldn't imagine going well, could you? Number 4. Vampire butterflies. There is nothing more peaceful than watching beautiful butterflies fluttering around the garden in the springtime. Butterflies are the very epitome of purity and kindness. Or are they? If you have never ventured into the darkest depths of the jungle, you have probably never seen the dark side of butterflies. While these vividly colourful insects are certainly appealing to look at, they are actually wild insects just like the rest of them. Some species of these fantastic creatures are also vampires. That's right, butterflies, like mosquitoes, will drink other animals' blood and not think twice about it. Of course, butterflies can't actually cut you open to drink your blood, but because of their nutrient needs, butterflies are greedy to suck up moisture any way they can get it. This includes the blood from your wound and the tears from your eyes. You may have never thought of it before, but your blood contains loads of minerals and nutrients that almost any living organism would be happy to eat. Butterflies are one of these organisms. Not only will they drink your blood, which is full of proteins, but they will even attempt to consume nutrients from feces. Disgusting, but there are nutrients everywhere and animals who want to get at them. Number 3. Blind platypuses. Of course, you knew there was going to be some discussion of the weirdest animal wandering around today. And of course, it's the platypus. Platypuses are unquestionably strange animals. They are mammals, but they lay eggs. They look like beavers, but they're not, and they swim through the water like happy otters. Pictures of platypuses on the internet often make them look much bigger than they are. But in reality, platypuses are only about the size of a house cat. They have dark brown fur, they are mostly waterproof, and they swim through the water with their eyes closed. You would think the platypus would keep its eyes open while swimming through the water so it could see where it was going, but it doesn't. It has a strange habit of submerging itself in water and then closing its eyes and ears while it swims around hunting. It actually uses its bill to hunt, since its bill has electroreceptors that can pick up small electrical signals sent by edible animals as they move around underwater. This allows the platypus to find worms and shrimps and eat them even while it swims around with its eyes squeezed shut. If the tale of the blind platypus feeling its way towards dinner doesn't make any sense to you, you're not alone. I thought this was baffling, but now I want a duck-billed platypus as a pet. Would you want one? Let me know in the comments section below. Number 2. The assassin bug. The assassin bug is the coolest bug you have never heard of. With a name like that, it has to be doing something unique. This bug is half assassin, half mercenary, and 100% menacing. Not only does the assassin bug kill and eat its prey, but it stacks their corpses on its back and walks around with dozens of dead bugs stacked on its shoulders like some kind of gruesome trophy. Like an alien in a horror movie, first it impales its prey, then it eats them from the inside out, and lastly it attaches the hollowed corpses to its back. And while you would think even the notorious assassin bug would only need to carry a few corpses on its back to make its point, it actually piles an outstanding number of dead victims onto its back to scare away possible predators. There is no better armor than your own victims strapped to your body, and no better deterrent for potential enemies. This also serves as a sort of camouflage for the assassin bug. The assassin bug typically eats termites, ants, bees, and anything else it can sink its fangs into. But the weird behaviour of wearing its victims earns it the top place as one of the strangest and most rugged creatures on planet Earth. What do you think? Is this trophy hunter the toughest, most terrifying creature for its size? I think so, but leave a comment and let me know your opinion. Number 1. The tongue thief. The Cymothoa exigua is a parasite that literally steals tongues. Not only does this parasite steal tongues, but it actually eats tongues and replaces them as itself. Does that sound unbelievable? The details are even stranger. Basically, this parasite will target a fish, infiltrate its gills, latch onto its tongue, consume the tongue, and then replace the fish's tongue with itself. This absolutely bizarre exchange goes on without the fish becoming aware of its victimhood, and it ends up leaving the fish with a fully functioning tongue. The parasite acts as the fish's tongue to grind food just like a normal tongue would. This is the only example of a species in the animal kingdom replacing the function of an organ. Think of it like if a parasite crawled into your body, ate your lungs, and then started to breathe air for you. It's absolutely bizarre. According to marine biologist Rick Brusker, the only fish that gets its tongue completely devoured and replaced as an organ that operates 100% is the rose snapper. The parasite does not steal other fish's tongues, draining their blood and replacing them, but the rose snapper gets the worst of it. I don't know whether to be more disgusted or impressed. Number 10. Tree kangaroo. There are a lot of strange animals roaming around our planet, and one of the strangest has got to be the tree kangaroo. The last thing you expect from a kangaroo is for it to be hanging out in trees. But in 1990, a brand new species of tree kangaroo was found in the mountains of Papua New Guinea. It's now known as the golden-mantled tree kangaroo. It has a unique chestnut-brown coat, a pale belly, and gold fur on its back. This is a strange yet beautifully unique marsupial, and there are not many of them left. In fact, the reason these animals weren't even discovered until 1990 is because scientists estimate that about 99% of their population has already been eliminated. According to the World Wildlife Foundation, the tree kangaroo has adapted to life in the branches, kind of like a monkey, using its short legs and extremely strong forelimbs to climb. In fact, this weird marsupial is a strange cross between a kangaroo and a wallaby, and a kangaroo and a lemur. The entire family of marsupials that kangaroos are a part of actually did evolve from ancient animals that lived in the trees millions of years ago. They slowly evolved to live on the ground into what we now recognise as the Australian kangaroo. Have you ever seen a kangaroo in real life? Was it in a zoo or in the wild down in Australia? It's supposed to be a bad idea to go up to them and bother them. They could kick you so hard it breaks your ribs. Let me know about your most shocking encounters with wildlife in the comments below. Then, if you like this video, remember to subscribe to stay on top of all the new videos in store. If you don't want to miss any of them, you'd best subscribe. Number 9. Penis snake. This is a real animal, and hopefully YouTube won't hold this against me. This might be the grossest thing you are going to see today, but try to keep it together. It's an animal. The penis snake looks exactly like you'd think it does. It's an unusual species with a rounded head, a thick and cylindrical body that is unusually fleshy, and yes, it looks very phallic. But it's not actually a snake. It's an extremely rare amphibian with no limbs. According to the Huffington Post, the penis snake was first discovered in Brazil in 2011 while engineers were working on a dam. They found 6 of these weird creatures all at the same time. The species has been identified by a biologist as being an aquatic animal thought to breathe through its skin. It has no legs and no lungs, and in the past few years there has been very little learned about this unusual animal. They only managed to collect 6 specimens. 1 of them died, 3 were released back into the wild, and the remaining 2 were kept for study. Apparently, their closest living relatives are salamanders and frogs. The animal likely eats small fish and worms, but the truth is that the horrible ugly penis snake is just another mystery of the Amazon we don't know much about. As we destroy more and more of the jungle, we find more and more bizarre animals. Number 8. Speckled bear. This weird monster may look like something out of a fantasy horror movie, but it's actually just an adorable speckled bear. Her name is Dominga, and she was so lonely in the zoo she lived in that she lost all of her fur. This is what a bear looks like when it's naked. According to the president of the Animal Defenders International, the poor bear had just 1 strip of hair on the back of her head and going down her back, which left her with something like a mohawk. She may look scary, but Dominga is anything but intimidating. She's 14 years old and has been through quite a lot. She's a Peruvian speckled bear who was originally trafficked from the Amazon rainforest by evil animal traffickers. She was supposed to be sold as a pet or into the entertainment industry, but she managed to get rescued and sent to a zoo. But the zoo didn't turn out to be a very good home. The bear got incredibly lonely, the environment wasn't sufficient for her needs, and the bear was too intelligent to be kept in a cage like that. The only good part was that Dominga had her sister with her throughout the whole experience. But then her sister died from a terrible accident, and Dominga got horribly depressed and lost all of her hair. But there is some good news. She was recently rescued by the Animal Defenders International and brought to an ecological reserve located in the Amazon rainforest, where she can now live out the last bit of her life in a better environment. Number 7. Venezuelan poodle moth. The Venezuelan poodle moth is one weird customer. It looks like a moth with hair like a poodle. It has long fluffy ears, extremely fluffy white wings, and big black eyes. It was first discovered and photographed in 2009, and most professionals believe it to be a new species. It was documented by Dr. Arthur Anker during a trip to Venezuela, but it didn't get much attention until just recently. The poodle moth is so extraordinary that many people thought the photos were doctored or altogether fake. But the confusion around the moth was because there were photos being posted of similar moths and not of the actual Venezuelan poodle moth. But let me assure you, the poodle moth is very real and it is very fluffy. Dr. Arthur Anker is notorious for visiting tropical rainforests and other exotic places all over the world, taking pictures of very real and very incredible animals, then placing the photos on his Flickr page. As of now, there is not a whole lot known about the poodle moth. Perhaps enterprising young researchers will go down to Venezuela and find out more about this and other remarkable creatures that live beyond the reach of civilization. Number 6. The Saiga Antelope. Let me introduce you to one of the world's weirdest antelope. At first glance, this looks like a creature that belongs somewhere in the Star Wars universe. They have the strangest faces, not only of any antelope, but almost of any animal. Because they have adapted to the harsh conditions of the grasslands of Central Asia, one of the last remaining wildernesses in the Earth, the antelopes look incredibly different from all their distant cousins. They have huge bulbous noses that seem to sag, and they live in big nomadic herds. Their weird hanging nose is thought to be used for filtering out dust during dry summers, which makes sense because they live in a very dusty area. Unfortunately, the Saiga antelope used to live in herds that numbered in the millions, but like everything else, they are rapidly declining in population. There are now just a few thousand of these animals, critically endangered and living in Kazakhstan. In case you didn't know, Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country in the world, and it has one of the largest unused land spaces, where you can still find wild antelope and wild camels. Number 5. Echidna. The echidna is one of the weirdest animals roaming around on the Earth. This thing is a bizarre mixture of a porcupine, a bird, a kangaroo, and a reptile. First, it definitely looks like a porcupine or a hedgehog. It has spikes growing out of its body that look dangerous to touch. On the other side, it has a beak for a mouth just like a bird. But underneath, it has a pouch like a kangaroo. But it lays eggs in the same way a reptile does. What the heck is this thing? Another name for the echidna is the spiny anteater. If you haven't guessed it by now, these solitary mammals are native to Australia and Tasmania, where so many of the weirdest animals on planet Earth live. They aren't very big, they only weigh about 10 pounds, but they are some of the neatest and most docile creatures in the world. And according to Wired, their spiky spines are actually modified hairs, with the fur between the spines acting as insulation. Number 4. Okapi. How do you feel about a mini giraffe with a zebra pattern on its rear end? Well, that's exactly what the okapi is. It's a hoofed mammal that lives in the giraffe family, but is an absolutely bizarre species most people don't even know about. This weird giraffe hybrid lives in the forests of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they are very close to being extinct. They were first discovered in the rainforest in 1901 by a British explorer, who then sent scraps of hide across the world to the British Museum. Even though the okapi is related to the giraffe, it's obviously much shorter. It also doesn't have the same colour pattern. It has an almost purple coat of fur, with its legs and buttocks looking exactly like a zebra. It really makes you wonder what exactly evolution was thinking when this thing turned out. Is it halfway to becoming a zebra, or halfway to becoming a giraffe? Or is it some type of weird hybrid that emerged when some very unusual cross-species mating occurred? What in the world is going on with the okapi? Seriously? Number 3. Indian purple frog. There is no stranger frog roaming the earth than the Indian purple frog. As the name suggests, they live in India. And because of their limited distribution, they aren't obviously roaming all of the earth. But they are definitely strange. They spend most of their lives living underground, only surfacing for 2 weeks out of the year to mate. They don't even come out of the ground to eat food. They mainly sit underground eating termites that come near them and waiting for that one time of the year to mate. What a life that is. It's like sitting in your house, surviving on pizza delivery, and only going out once a year to try and find a partner. It's the ultimate lazy lifestyle. And the Indian purple frog even looks like a loafer. It's fat, purple, it has tiny little eyes, and it doesn't look like it could move very far if it wanted to. In fact, it looks like it's always bloated from eating way too much. Its head is way too small in comparison to its body, and it has a really long snout that sticks out of its face a little too far. And yeah, it's a super dark purple. Really, it's cute in the same way that a pug is adorable. It's just so strange looking, it's impossible not to love it. How nature comes up with this stuff, I will never know. Number 2. Narwhal. There is one animal in the sea that is stranger and more fascinating than most others, and it's called the narwhal. You could also call it the unicorn of the sea, as it is so nicknamed. This is because most narwhals have an extremely long spiral tusk sticking out of their face. The narwhal tusk, which is generally found on males, is actually a very long tooth that has sensory capabilities of around 10 million nerve endings. Some narwhals even have 2 tusks, while other narwhals don't have any. Imagine if one of your teeth stuck out 10 feet from your face and had more nerve endings on it than one of your fingers. It's pretty incredible. And what's even more incredible is that when you look at a narwhal, it doesn't even look like it has a face. It almost looks like a fat black seal with a javelin extending from its nose, with no eyes or mouth. It could be the narwhal that is actually the closest thing planet Earth has to a real-life unicorn. And it's even possible that a fossilized narwhal was the inspiration for the mythical creature itself. Although, to be honest, unicorns look a lot better than the chubby blob that lives deep in the polar north. Yes, narwhals do typically live in the Arctic waters, which is why they are so rare to see. According to the World Wildlife Foundation, narwhals live in Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. Number 1. The Yeti crab. The strangest real-life animal of the day is, like many of the weirdest-looking creatures, a denizen of the depths. That's right, this very strange animal roams around on the bottom of the sea. This animal is a mixture between a yeti and a crab, and it's called a yeti crab. Surprise, surprise. While not particularly impressive, they don't have giant horns and they don't really do that much. These crabs are still very cool. They live at the very bottom of the ocean in and around hydrothermal vents, which spew out boiling hot water from underground fissures. Most sea creatures wouldn't be able to live in such a habitat, but the yeti crabs really don't mind. These weird creatures were discovered first in 2005 and named after the mythical abominable snowman because of their hairy arms and white colour. They spend their days farming bacteria as a food source and basking in the extremely warm water around the hydrothermal vents. What a way to spend a life! But then again, nature has a place for all different kinds of life forms here on planet Earth. Which of these strange creatures is the most fascinating? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching and see you again soon. Out of the 10 animals on this list, how many had you never heard of until watching our video?